Om Tavakatamritam Taptajivanam Kavipirititam Kalmashapam Sharavanamangalam Shrimadatatam Bhuvangarnantiye Burita Janaha. The nectar of your words, the praise of poet seers, elixir to parched souls, delight to listening ears, cleanser of all sins is great and glorious. They who spread it far and wide on earth are most generous. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good evening, friends. This evening we will continue with the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. For those that are following along in the book, we are on page 159. If you're on a Kindle or other electronic book, search on the date December 1882. In the afternoon, Sri Ramakrishna was seated on the west porch of his room in the temple garden at Dakineshar. Among others, Babaram, Ramdayal, and M were present. These three were going to spend that night with the Master. M intended to stay the following day also, for he was having his Christmas holidays. Babaram had only recently begun to visit the Master. Master to the devotees. A man becomes liberated even in this life when he knows that God is the doer of all things. Once Keshav came here with Sambhu Malik. I said to him, not even a leaf moves except by the will of God. Where is man's free will? All are under the will of God. So we all have this notion of free will. I don't think there's a person alive that doesn't ask themselves about, do I have free will? Now here Sri Ramakrishna is speaking of free will from his standpoint. So he looked on himself as a child of God, and he felt that his mother does everything. He would also say at times that he is the instrument and she is the operator. So, in other places, he has also said that he's been asked whether we actually have free will. And at other times he would say, well, we have free will as much free will as, for example, a cow tethered to a pole. It can only move around within a certain limited space, but can't go beyond that because of the limitations of how long that string or rope is. But we also, this question about whether we have free will, the Master also says that, well, if you try to search who that I is within us, you eventually will find out that no, there's something else in there, and that is, he says, you'll find the He. You'll find that, oh, not I, but thou. You'll see that. You'll feel that you are the machine, and he or the mother is the operator. So he would often say that thou art the machine, and I am the machine, and thou art the operator. And he would say that God alone is the doer. But he would advise people to work in the world as if they are the doer, but knowing all the time that God alone is the doer and that we are only the instrument. So And he goes on further to say that as long as the upadhi exists, that there is ignorance, this upadhi is like an analogy is used of a clear crystal, which is clear by itself, but if you put a red rose behind it and then look at the crystal will appear red. But the red is not part of the crystal. It's a limitation that we see from our point of view when we view at the crystal. But that redness was never part of that crystal. Just as the self itself is pure, has no limitations, but any limitations you put on it are only apparent limitations. Just like that red rose is an apparent color of the crystal, but actually has no inherent connection to the crystal. So our limitations have no inherent connection to the self. They are just limitations. They are what we call the upadhi. That's a Vedanta philosophical term used to explain how the limitations appear to come onto the self. And we identify with those limitations, and when we no longer identify with those limitations, then only the self is left. And this idea that I have free will is one of those limitations. We only apparently have free will. We don't actually have free will. So, and that is only known when we are free of the ego. Any of these limitations we put on, whether I am a Swami, or I am this, or I am that, those are only upadhis. They are limitations that are imposed on the self. So they are not what the self really is, or what our real nature is. So this idea that, do we have free will? Well, apparently we do. That's that apparentness that we see. But it's not really it's not really a part of the self. So then, but then the question, Sri Ramakrishna also mentions that if man did not have this sense of free will, he would have committed much more sin. We think, oh, free will means, oh, I can do anything I want. But because we have this sense that, or this limitation within us that, yes, we have free will, that also gives us a sense of responsibility for our actions. And therefore we suffer as a result of our actions. But if we say that, well, if I have free will, I can do anything I want, it's God's responsibility, well, no, we suffer the results of that notion that we have a free will. So that is a limitation, and that's a limitation on us as human beings. So that also, at a higher point of view, that we realize that, no, all these things are part of God. So so the sense of free will, at our level, we feel like we have free will, but as we get closer and closer to God, or as we understand what our real nature is, that sense of free will disappear. We'll feel, no, God is doing everything. And if a man really feels that God is doing everything, he cannot, quote, commit sin. He cannot make a mistake. Because he's not doing anything. That sense of selfishness, that sense of doership is not there. There's no sense of who's going to be the enjoyer of the action I'm going to do. Well, there's no question then when one has gotten rid of the ego or that sense of doership. So that sense of free will exists for us now, but as we progress spiritually, we understand, no, God is doing everything. And so we only have a mistaken sense that we have free will. So he says, where is a man's free will? All are under the will of God. And then he says, Nangta was a man of great knowledge. Nangta translates to the Naked One. Here he's referring to Totapuri, who was his guru in Advaita Vedanta and teaching him non-dualistic Vedanta. So he's saying, and for those that may not know, Totapuri was a pure non-dualist. He did not identify with the body. He believed that he had the experience that God was in and everything and was the only thing that exists. And the sense of identity was at the sense of ego he had was at a very minimum. So he came to teach Sri Ramakrishna that aspect of Vedanta, because up until that point, Sri Ramakrishna was practicing dualistic practices, the different dualistic forms of Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism. So Nangta was a man of great knowledge, yet even he was about to drown himself in the Ganges. He stayed here 11 months. At one time he suffered from stomach trouble. The excruciating pain made him lose control over himself, and he wanted to drown himself in the river. There was a long shoal near the bathing ghat. However far he went into the river, he couldn't find water above his knees. Then he understood everything and came back. And then there's a quote. He realized that man is not free even to kill himself, that everything depends on the will of the Divine Mother. Now, this is just the footnote also refers us to actually the full story given in the introduction of Sri Ramakrishna. So it's referring to page 31. I'm going to read that section only because here we have a shortened version, but we don't really understand what was he thinking at that time, what was he feeling. Because here's a man that, though he believed in non-dualism, he taught non-dualism, but very difficult to live up to it under all circumstances. So we often have a romanticized idea of what non-dualistic Vedanta is, and we feel, oh, that ideal appeals to me. But we don't really understand, put to the test, can you maintain that attitude? And Totapuri was put to the test. So this page on page 31, for those who have the book, Totapuri was suddenly laid up with a severe attack of dysentery. On account of this miserable illness, he found it impossible to meditate. One night the pain became excruciating. He could no longer concentrate on Brahman. The body stood in the way. He became incensed with its demands. A free soul, he did not even care for the body, so he determined to drown it in the Ganges. Thereupon he walked into the river, but lo, he walks to the other bank. Is there not enough water in the Ganges? Standing dumbfounded on the other bank, he looks back across the water. The trees, the temples, the houses are silhouetted against the sky. Suddenly, in one dazzling moment, he sees on all sides the presence of the Divine Mother. So up until this point, he totally denied the Divine Mother. Even as Sri Ramakrishna was speaking about it, he was thinking, oh, this is some figment of this poor man's imagination. This is not real. So, for him to have this vision was an extraordinary experience. So he sees that he sees on all sides the presence of the Divine Mother. She is in everything. She is everything. She is in the water. She is on the land. She is the body. She is the mind. She is pain. She is comfort. She is knowledge. She is ignorance. She is life. She is death. She is everything that one sees, hears, or imagines. She turns yea into nay, and nay into yea. Without her grace, no embodied being can go beyond her realm. Man has no free will. He is not even free to die. Yet again, beyond the body and mind, she resides in her transcendental, absolute aspect. She is the Brahman that Totapuri had been worshipping all his life. Totapuri returned to Dakshineshwar and spent the remaining hours of the night meditating on the Divine Mother. In the morning he went to the Kali temple with Sri Ramakrishna and prostrated himself before the image of the Mother. He now realized why he had spent 11 months at Dakshineshwar. Bidding farewell to the disciple, he continued on his way, enlightened. Sri Ramakrishna later described the significance of Totapuri's lessons. When I think of the Supreme Being as inactive, neither creating nor preserving nor destroying, I call him Brahman or Purusha, the impersonal God. When I think of him as active, creating, preserving, and destroying, I call him Shakti or Maya or Prakriti, the personal God. But the distinction between them does not mean a difference. The personal and the impersonal are the same thing, like milk and its whiteness, the diamond and its luster, the snake and its wriggling motion. It is impossible to conceive of one without the other. The Divine Mother and Brahman are one. So Sri Ramakrishna taught Totapuri that God is not just the non-dual aspect, but also has the dualistic aspect, and vice versa. Each was the guru of the other. And now Sri Ramakrishna is saying, at one time I was very ill and was about to cut my throat with a knife. Therefore I say, O Mother, I am the machine, and thou art the operator. I am the chariot, and thou art the driver. I move as thou movest me. I do as thou makest me do. So here he has completely resigned to the Mother. No sense of ego, no sense of doership, no sense of free will. So now the devotees sang kirtan in the Master's room. So the song starts out with, Dwell, O mind, O lover of bhakti, in the Vrindavan of my heart, and my devotion unto thee will be thy Radha, dearly loved. My body will be Nanda's home. Nanda is Krishna's father. My tenderness will be Yashoda. Yashoda was Krishna's mother. My longing for deliverance will be thy gentle gopi maids. Lift the Govardhan of my sin, Govardhan is a large mountain, and slay my 6 unyielding passions, fierce as the demons sent by Kamsa. Sweetly play the flute of thy grace. Charming the milch cow of my mind, abide in the pasture of my soul. Dwell in the Jamuna of my yearning. Jamuna is a river. Under the banyan of my hope, forever gracious to thy servant, and if not, by the cowherd's love, can hold thee in Vrindavan's vale. Then, Lord, let Dasharathi, too, become thy cowherd and thy slave. Again he sang, "Sing, O bird that nestles deep within my heart. Sing, O bird that sits on the Kalpa tree of Brahman." The Kalpa tree is a wish-fulfilling tree. Sing God's everlasting praise. Taste, O bird, the four fruits of the Kalpa tree, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Dharma being the righteousness, living a righteous life. Artha means wealth, attaining wealth in this life. Kama means the fulfillment of one's desires, and moksha, attaining liberation. Sing, O mind, he alone is the comfort of my soul. Sing, O bird, he alone is my life's enduring joy. O thou wondrous bird of my life, sing aloud in my heart. Unceasingly sing, O bird. Sing forevermore, even as the thirsty chatak sings for the raindrop from the cloud. Chatak is a mythical bird that will not drink any water other than raindrops falling from the sky. A devotee from Nandan Bagan entered the room with his friends. Nandan Bagan is a neighborhood in the southern part of Calcutta. The master looked at him and said, "Everything inside him can be seen through his eyes, as one sees the objects in a room through a glass door." Sri Ramakrishna had that ability to know a person just by looking at him. He could see into their soul. He could see what their impressions were, what deity they worshipped, what aspect of God appealed to them. And he would tailor his teachings according to their attitude, to what he saw in them, and guide them. He could see their faults, he could see their virtues. So here is a description of how he actually does, where it actually displays, or where he tells that, everything inside him can be seen through his eyes, as one sees the objects in a room through a glass door. So he's seen all the person's limitations, but he sees the self in that person. This devotee and his brothers always celebrated the anniversary of the Brahma Samaj at their house in Nandan Bagan. And Sri Ramakrishna had taken part in these festivals. The evening worship began in the temples. The master was seated on the small couch in his room, absorbed in meditation. He went into an ecstatic mood and said a little later, "Mother, please draw him to thee. He is so modest and humble. He has been visiting thee." Was the master referring to Babaram, who later became one of his foremost disciples? So Babaram became Swami Premananda. But Sri Ramakrishna, often when young devotees would come to him, he would, and several other places, he would pray to the Divine Mother, "Please draw him to you." So, especially if they were undecided what life they should live, householder's life or monastic life. Because many of these young men had grown up or had already attended the Brahma Samaj before they came to Sri Ramakrishna. So one ideal is taught there. Sri Ramakrishna taught a different ideal, but many of his teachings appealed to them. So Sri Ramakrishna would just pray to the Divine Mother. If he felt that person had the potential to realize God or to or within his inner circle of disciples, he would tell the Divine Mother to draw them to her. And he would say, "He is so modest and humble, and he has been visiting thee." Here it says, was the Master referring to Babaram? Well, we don't really know because Sri Ramakrishna hasn't really said explicitly. This is M narrating what he is thinking while he's seeing, while he's in the presence of Sri Ramakrishna. So how he drew this conclusion, is it Babaram, is not known. Perhaps, at least not known to me, but perhaps some clues have occurred in previous meetings that perhaps, because Sri Ramakrishna mentioned this aloud, so Emma was hearing this, but whether it was referring to Babaram, although if we look back to see who attended, it only says, among others, Babaram, Ram Dayal, and M were present. So Babaram was, well, I don't know who among others are, but Babaram was one of the younger boys there. The Master explained the different kinds of samadhi to the devotees. The conversation then turned to the joy and suffering of life. Why did God create so much suffering? Well, actually, I will conclude there because that will be the cliffhanger for when we resume the class after our summer recess. So in conclusion, we have quite a number of announcements to make. So this tomorrow evening at 7 p.m., Swami Brahmatmananda, who resides at our retreat property in the Tapovan, he will be giving an online class where he'll be reading and having a two-way discussion on the book Towards the Goal Supreme. And also, tomorrow evening, Swami Nikhilananda will be coming into Seattle. He is our guest Swami who will be participating in our Sunday program. For those that have signed up for our Holy Mother's Luncheon, which will also, not just a luncheon, Swami Nikhilananda will give a talk at 11 a.m. at the retreat. That will be on Sunday. That means there is no Sunday lecture here in Seattle. So don't come to our front door, go to the Tapovan. You will also be treated to a lunch. You'll also be treated to a musical program. And our children have a, quote, surprise play and event. So you're all welcome to attend that. We have many openings. If you have not signed up, you could just show up there. But ideally, we would like you to sign up so we have some idea how many chairs are set up. And seating is limited in the chapel itself because the children need space to do the play, so we have to arrange that also. So it would be helpful to know how many seats to make available. We will also have books for sale there. We do have some new books, but primarily we'll have a table full of used books that have been donated back to the center. There won't be any prices on them. They'll either be free, take as you like, or leave a donation. So if some of you would like to add to your library, that's a good opportunity to do so. If you do come, you might like to bring some, it is a potluck lunch, vegetarian lunch. But since Swami Nikhilananda is coming Thursday, he's also being asked to give the Friday night class. So typically on Friday we have the householder disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. And so Swami Nikhilananda will be speaking on Kalipada Ghosh. So you are all welcome to attend that here in person, not just online. And you'll have a chance to meet him in person. Because everything is at our retreat, there is no Mother's Children or Children's program here in Seattle either. Not just a talk, but no children's program. Everyone will be at the retreat. And Swami Nikhilananda leaves here on Monday, July 15th, the next day. That is also our last day before we begin our summer recess. And our recess will resume on August 24th. We do have, however, one event, Guru Purnima, on Sunday, July 21st. And for those that get our email notifications, we will be open for people who come to give pranams to Swami Avikarananda or Swami Satyamananda to limited times on that Sunday. So look at those timings on your email notifications. So thank you all very much for attending, both in person and online. And I will conclude with a chant. Om Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa Dritavigraham Vai Ishavataram Paramesamnityam Tvam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namamaha. We salute that Ramakrishna, who is without blemish, eternal and infinite in forms, who has assumed human form out of compassion for the devotees, who is God incarnate, the Supreme Lord, and who is most worshipful. Om, peace, peace, peace to all beings.